perform our first exercise in scaling. Okay, manually scaling. Okay, in this we'll create a deployment. Okay, by default it will have a single replica. Okay, then we'll increase it to 3, then again we'll decrease it to 2 and 1. Okay, very simple exercise we'll do using both imperative commands and the manifest. Okay, let's start with the imperative commands. So I've already created a new cluster for today. Now I'm creating only a single node. So instead of 2 nodes, we'll be having only single worker node. And it is a clean cluster, nothing is installed on it. Okay, so we'll create our first deployment using kubectl. This is using this imperative command we can create a deployment httpd using image httpd. We'll get the details. Okay, so if you see by default it is having only one replica. Okay, here the replica. Now to increase it, the command would be this one. Okay, so sometimes in interview they ask this question, how will you increase the number of replicas? Sometimes they expect this kube scale. Okay, so kube scale deployment, what we are scaling, the deployment with the name myhttpd, replicas should be 3. Now if you see kubectl get all, we have 3 replicas. This is all called as scale up from 1 to 3. We have scaled the number of pods. Okay, now we can scale down to any number less than 3. So let's scale it down to 2. Okay, so if you see this, there are only 2 pods now. This was all about scale up. Now let's check using the manifest method itself. Okay, how to create the deployment and scale up and scale it down. So kubectl get all will delete this, whatever we have, kubectl delete deployment. Deleting a deployment will also delete the pods. Okay, we have nothing here. Let's create our manifest directory. In that we'll create all the manifest for the next exercise. For scale up and scale down, we'll create one deployment file. Okay, cat deploy.yml. In that just add these details. So we are using here httpd image to create a container called myhttpd, and here we have defined replicas equal to 1. Just deploy this kubectl apply -f deploy.yml kubectl get all. So it has one replica now. To change it, we can do vim deploy.yml. Okay, instead of 1, we'll make it 2. Again, apply it. Okay, and if you see kubectl get all, we have 2 replicas now. Okay, due to some reason, somehow if you delete this file, suppose we have deleted this file rm-fr deploy.yml. Now if I want to change the manifest, okay, so means change the number of replicas, how I can do that? Okay, there are 2 methods. Okay, just do kubectl get all. Okay, we already have the running deployment. Okay, then kubectl get deployment the deployment name, and output it as a YML file. If you output it, it will give the YML file for it. Okay, so when we create our YML file, we give some limited options. We do not give all these things. Okay, creation time, generation, only limited options we give. Okay, but you should be aware what should be edited and what should not be. Okay, the other things are default settings. Okay, so whatever changes we wanted to make, we created the YML file for it. So one of the method would be create one more deploy.yml. Okay, I'll output it to YML file. Okay. Remember -o YML. Now just open just deploy.yml, and instead of 2, if I want to make it back to 1, I'll just write here 1, and I'll just save it. Okay, and again apply it kubectl apply deploy.yml. Okay, so if you see kubectl get all, instead of 2 ports there will be only 1 port. This is one of the method. Okay, now suppose I lost this file as well. Okay, the next method would be, first method is using the deploy.yml file. Second one, we outputted it, okay, using -o YML in a new file. And the third method would be kubectl get deployment httpd. Now let's edit it. We can directly edit the file, edit edit. Okay, and it will open it in a vim editor. Okay, or whatever default editor you have, it has opened it. Now we can directly edit it, and due to some reason if you make any typo, it will not save it. Okay, so it checks the syntax internally. Okay, instead of 1 I have 2 now. Just save it. Now we don't need to do anything, it has already made the changes. Just do kubectl get all, get ports. Okay, so instead of 1 there will be 2 ports now. Okay, so this was all about increasing and decreasing, okay, number of ports, that is scale up and scale down manually.